Hey everyone, Brian Zane here. Survivor Series 2016 has just wrapped up and crazy stuff in the main event of that show, the whole show for that matter. If you want to hear my thoughts about Goldberg Lesnar, you have to fast forward to the end or just wait it out because I'm going to be doing this pretty much in order of the show. So let's begin. Before I begin, I just want to say I did see NXT Takeover Toronto on Saturday, and that was a great show. Every match was really good. Obviously, I think the match of the night was the tag title match, the Revival versus DIY. Even the Dusty Classic Final, to me, even though it wasn't as epic of a match, was still a really fun match to watch. I love the spot with Thorne going off the top of the... I realized, like, just tonight, oh, it was a corporate tie-in with the crash cage thing. Oh, man, I just gagged when I realized that. Off the big contraption onto Authors of Pain. Joe beating Nakamura for the title was a big shock. I didn't expect that to happen. Them botching and playing his old funky music when he first debuted, that god-awful thing right when he won. That was a weird botch. But yeah, just top to bottom, I think it was a really solid show. And, you know, Survivor Series had a lot to live up to, especially almost double the length of time for Survivor Series that NXT was. Not much to say about the pre-show stuff, in my opinion. Luke, Harper, and Kane was, whatever. Then there was the six-man Cruiserweight match. First of all, I'm sick to death of the six-man Cruiserweight match, both on Raw and on the pre-show. I think it's kind of a trope now. Second of all, this thought entered my mind tonight. It's Survivor Series. You're showcasing this Cruiserweight division. Why not have a 5-on-5 Cruiserweight standard Survivor Series match? Oh my God, not every Survivor Series match has to be Raw versus SmackDown tonight. I mean, I know it would kind of interrupt the pattern, but it's going to be pretty fun. I think it would have been fine. It didn't have to be, it still could have been on a pre-show, but it still would have been a fun use of the Cruiserweights, the ones you already have on hand. A couple you might want to bring up temporarily for, from NXT or something like that, and just make something fun. That's all I'm asking. The women's Survivor Series match, Raw versus SmackDown. First off, Nikki Bella, the captain, couldn't make it because she was hit from behind and she was unable to compete. Coach Natalya swooped in and took her place. I think the obvious choice is that, it was Natalya who jumped her from behind. No one saw who did it. But I was thinking kind of just before I started recording, ooh, what if it's a red herring? What if we all think it was Natalya who did it, but it's actually the return of Eva Marie? Two of the biggest highlights for me in this match. First of all, Nia Jax, after looking strong for the first half of the match, she ends up tapping out to Becky Lynch's Disarm Her in relatively quick fashion. I was really surprised about that. I thought she would get counted out or DQ'd or something, but to tap out like that, for that to be your first official defeat on the main roster, if you're Nia Jax, that kind of comes out of left field for me. I thought they would have booked her a little stronger. Great for Becky Lynch to be the first person to beat her in that kind of fashion, but I just kind of wish there was something more of a kind of a one-on-one kind of moment, not like in a big multi-person tag team match. Second of all, I enjoyed the fact that they had the final three were three of the four horsewomen. Sasha Banks was eliminated earlier on. I think having the 3-on-1 advantage for Raw would have been a bit too much, so I think having 2-on-1 was good. Bayley wins for Team Raw with the belly-to-belly. She and Charlotte were the two survivors. And then Charlotte immediately beats up Bayley and just tosses her from pillar to post, clearly establishing the next feud going on with the women, going on the women's division on Raw. So yes, that was a very good match, a very good way to open the show, and I'm curious to see where the Charlotte Bayley thing ends up and what happened. Who attacked Nikki Bella? That's going to be the big mystery now. Intercontinental Championship, The Miz defending against Sami Zayn. I feel really bad for Dolph Ziggler because not only was he kicked out of the IC title match at the last minute on SmackDown, he wasn't anywhere to be seen on the show. Like he and Rusev, I noticed. I know Rusev was recently, his grandmother just died, so he was flying back to Bulgaria for that. So that probably the biggest reason why he wasn't booked. But man, Ziggler not being on the card at all after having been booked so pretty consistently strong pretty much since SummerSlam, to me is a grave injustice, but that's neither here nor there. This match itself I thought was really good. Zayn using his OMG moment, the plancha on the outside. I loved, this one thing that maybe just I noticed, when The Miz had Zayn in the figure 4, they cut back to some close-ups of The Miz's face and Zayn's face, and they were some of the funniest facial expressions I've ever seen. Sami Zayn at one point looked like he just realized he didn't study enough on a math test, and he was really kind of getting nervous. Like, that was kind of the vibe I got from one of his looks. But anyway, the match was really cool. I liked that at the end, Maurice pulled a Brian Pillman and rang the bell to distract Sami Zayn, made him think he won, and then The Miz with a roll-up, 1, 2, 3. The Miz retains, brilliant finish, very, very, visceral, boo, I hate you, Miz, heelish win. So yeah, I thought that was a really fun match and a great way to end it. Tag Team Survivor Series match. Man, if this match weren't match of the night material, you'd be hard-pressed to find one that was more worthy. This match just had like constant surprises the whole time. Breezango getting eliminated right away. The New Day getting eliminated right away. I never would have, in a million years, would have expected that. And let's just fast forward to the end. Cesaro and Sheamus versus the Usos. My God, Cesaro, we get it. You're amazing. You tore the house down with what you did on Sunday night. Give him all the dollars. That's all I had to say, because give him all the brass rings, because Cesaro killed it tonight. He was amazing. I loved it. I also want to say Anderson and Gallows, up to their elimination, they looked very strong. They eliminated 3 of the 5 teams on SmackDown. Gallows in particular, I think, was the one who did it. So that was really cool look for them. You know, it's not them winning the whole thing, but they did still look very strong. American Alpha, they stole Funaki's tights and they stole the Steiner Brothers finisher. And so the match ends when Cesaro has the sharpshooter and one of the Usos. Sorry, still can't tell them apart, especially now there's no face paint. And then Sheamus intercepts the other one. Tap out of the sharpshooter. Raw wins in the tag team match. I'm 2 for 2 in my Survivor Series matches, folks. Keep track. And yeah, it was a crazy finish to what was a fantastic match. Cruiserweight Championship. Brian Kendrick defending against Kalisto, with the winner taking the whole kit and caboodle, the whole Cruiserweight division with them to Raw or SmackDown. The biggest spot I can recall from this match, seeing, holy shit, the C4 from the apron onto the floor by Kalisto onto Kendrick. I take back everything I said, putting the C4 in my worst finishes countdown, especially that variant. That was amazing. I thought Kalisto knocked himself out the way he landed, but I don't think he did. I wonder if he tweaked his leg a little bit early on, or near the end of the thing. You could tell he was kind of nursing the leg halfway through, but he gutted through it, so kudos to Kalisto for that. The match ends when Baron Corbin, of all people, comes in and jumps both Kendrick and Kalisto, but he hit Kendrick first, meaning that Kendrick wins by disqualification. I get that Baron Corbin came back to get revenge on Kalisto for putting him out of action, but if he was healthy enough to be back on Survivor Series to jump Kalisto and Brian Kendrick, why didn't he get back into the Survivor Series match? Shane McMahon replaced him. I mean, why couldn't Corbin just come back in? So with Kendrick winning the match and keeping the championship, the Cruiserweight division stays on Raw. So I guess the question is now, like, what goes on? Like, do the Cruiserweights have to travel from Raw to SmackDown every week to make the 205 Live show? It makes no sense to me. You figure, you know, they're all about cutting costs. They're all about being, you know, streamlined and most productive with their tapings and stuff. Why wouldn't you move the Cruiserweight division and the champion to the same show and the same date as you're doing this 205 Live show? To me, that's just very bizarre that they would do something like that. Who knows if the Cruiserweights are going to eventually move to SmackDown after all, despite what happened at Survivor Series tonight. But that was my first big takeaway. Like, where is the Cruiserweight division? How are they going to be affected by having to basically commute from show to show every week? The men's traditional Survivor Series match, Raw versus SmackDown. You know, I said earlier that the tag team version was probably the match of the night, in my opinion. This comes to a close second, not just in the terms of its scope, how long it went, just also all these different moments. There were big moments, there were little moments, these little things that you did, these big things you just noticed that really, I think, made this a very enjoyable match to watch. You know, one thing I noticed, first of all, it took like 15 minutes for the first elimination to happen. So that was really cool to see it go that long before we finally saw someone get beat. It was Dean Ambrose. Braun Strowman carrying Ambrose around for like 8 minutes on the outside. It was going for so long. Jericho quoting Captain Phillips, "Look at me, I'm the captain now." Shane with the big elbow from the top rope to the outside onto Braun Strowman. Ellsworth getting revenge for that very first Strowman squash, keeping Strowman from getting in the ring. Ellsworth getting destroyed. I knew Ellsworth was going to get involved somehow as the mascot, and then that happened. I could really go on and on. So many cool spots. Shane, this part was scary though, honestly. Shane going for the Van Terminator. I'm not going to call it coast to coast. It was the Van Terminator. Roman catches him with a spear. That's bad enough. Then Shane is just concussed. You see in the replay how hard his head hit the mat. You see he kicked out because he was in the fencing response. I think that was an involuntary thing. That was scary. You see his face, you see his eyes. Holy shit. I hope Shane McMahon is okay, because he looked like he was half dead after taking that spear. I don't think that was Roman's fault. I think it was just kind of a situational thing, the positioning where they were. Shane had to take a big high bump up here, and that's just, it was kind of a consequence of the move. So yeah, scary thing. Hope Shane McMahon is okay. But moving on to the more like, you know, the kayfabe stuff, the stuff that was planned. Dean Ambrose coming back and having the mini Shield reunion. There was like 18 different storylines going on, and there's more yet to come. The triple powerbomb into AJ Styles on the outside. Styles gets eliminated. Roman Reigns being the last one for Raw, and the crowd does a "Let's Go SmackDown" chant. They hated Roman Reigns all night. It was amazing. But Orton taking a bullet for Bray Wyatt, continuing this storyline, showing, is Orton for real? Is this a trap? Is this for real? But Orton takes the bullet for Wyatt. He eats the spear. Bray Wyatt hits Sister Abby on Roman Reigns and beats him. So SmackDown wins. I'm 3 for 3 in the Survivor Series matches. Eat it. And so, yeah, that was a crazy match from start to finish. It did go long, but there was very few like boring points of, God, like, let this keep going on. This was a really fun match to watch. Like I said, a lot of big moments, a lot of small moments into one big package that was very, very enjoyable and really surpassed my expectations. Let's talk about Goldberg Lesnar. Let's talk about Goldberg Lesnar. Oh, the match is already over? So yeah, 2 spears, a jackhammer, that's it. Goldberg wins the match in a UFC-esque squash match happening in the main event of Survivor Series, one of the big 4. People thought that Lesnar Cena a couple years back at SummerSlam was a squash match. This was even shorter than that. And I don't know how much Goldberg's shoulder injury, his alleged shoulder injury on Raw, was a factor in the length of the match. I don't know how much of it had to do with Goldberg signing an extension to the Royal Rumble, as what I've heard recently online. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if they just wanted to say, screw it, let's surprise the fans, let's get them talking. But people are talking. This match, this what you want to call it a match, this finish to the pay-per-view was, quite frankly, insane, and it was brilliant. A lot of people are mad. People are furious that Bill Goldberg won, and especially in such dominant fashion. This guy who's in his 50s and he hasn't had a match in umpteen years, and he just comes in here, and now the streak being over, it's pointless. It's pointless that Lesnar beat Taker at WrestleMania 30, because now Goldberg just walks in, squashes Lesnar, and that's it. Oh, the young boy doesn't get a chance to get the torch passed to him from Lesnar. First of all, I think that torch passing moment, the best time to do it would have been like a year ago, or maybe WrestleMania 32 at the very latest. But like now, I think like, God, it's been so long, and I think if it's the way things have gone, I think that time has passed. I think Lesnar hasn't necessarily gotten like bigger and bigger. His star hasn't gotten bigger and bigger. It's like it hit a plateau, and it's just been there. And I think the best time they could have done it was WrestleMania 31, and we all know why they didn't do that. So I think that, it's like it would have been nice if a younger person, but it's the same thing as, Taker, getting the streak broken by Lesnar in the first place. A lot of people wanted to see a young person, an up-and-comer, take the spot and beat Taker at WrestleMania. But I think that would be too much pressure on both the wrestler and the company to make that follow through. But with Goldberg beating Lesnar, with Lesnar beating Taker, first of all, it's fine. He doesn't need it, but he, doesn't hurt him either. But with Goldberg beating Lesnar, it's the same thing. Wrestling is a video game. Wrestling is a comic book. Wrestling is a superhero movie. Wrestling is a cartoon. Wrestling is fake. And if someone like Goldberg, looking like Goldberg at his age and with his cred and his highlights, can come in and do the same thing he used to do in the late 90s in WCW to Brock Lesnar and make it look good, why complain? I don't think Lesnar is going to be hurt by this. I don't think the future of Lesnar's drawing power is going to be affected at all by this. I think Lesnar, is going to be fine after this. I think he's going to recover. I think he's going to be even more devastating and evil and destructive than before. He's gonna, it's like in college football. I use college football a lot as my analogies. It's the one sport I really follow. But it's like it's if the number 1 seed goes down to an underdog. Say like Alabama lost to some other smaller school, and then the next week they get their heat back on this hapless cupcake team. They just want to beat some ass after that. They want to prove to everyone that it was a fluke. That's what Brock Lesnar's going to do. I think it'll be just fine. Whether he and Goldberg fight again and do a rubber match in the future, I don't know. I know I'm rambling here. The bottom line is I really enjoyed what happened here in this match. I thought it was a really cool moment. Lesnar's not going to be hurt by it. Goldberg, good for him. Did you really want to see a 10 to 20 minute match between these two? No, you didn't. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to me. And here's the thing. After having just seen this big Survivor Series match that went yard, I didn't mind seeing a shorter match. So yay, wrestling is fun and unpredictable. That's why I love it. This was actually a pretty cool way to end the show. My final thoughts on Survivor Series 2016. I will say this, NXT Takeover was an awesome show, and it would be very tough for Survivor Series to live up to that hype. But it's a fallacy to compare the two and try and hold up those standards just because they're two very different products at this point. NXT is in a whole other league from the main roster and vice versa. Two sides of the same coin, but they are very different products. So comparing them doesn't really work out in my opinion. NXT Takeover was an awesome show, but I think Survivor Series was also awesome for different reasons. I would have to give Survivor Series an A- grade. Not taking the pre-show into account, couldn't care less about those matches. The only reason I would really deduct anything from the overall Survivor Series pay-per-view was just the wonky finish to the Cruiserweight Championship match. It's the one match I didn't predict correctly. Everyone got to do something on this show, and it was really cool. Like, the women got some good stuff in. Like I said, the tag team Survivor Series match, Holy crap, that was amazing. The singles championship matches were really good in their own way, except for for the finish for the Cruiserweight thing. But like everything else about that match, in my opinion, worked really well. The men's Survivor Series match, this big, sprawling epic covering all these different storylines and all these different storyline progressions for Raw and for SmackDown. How Kevin Owens getting himself disqualified, trying to help Chris Jericho, using the list, Jericho getting distracted because the list got disheveled and everything. Like where it's going to go with that. And then you've got, of course, Goldberg Lesnar, which, it was a crazy, for what it was insane. You never expected this to happen, but man, what a way to end a show that was so full of emotion and roller coaster rides aplenty for your emotions. I'm rambling here. I give Survivor Series an A- grade, easily my favorite of the big four pay-per-views this year. Beats Royal Rumble, beats WrestleMania by a country mile, and it beats SummerSlam as well. Let me know what you think about Survivor Series, and for that matter, NXT TakeOver, in the comments section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.